Good morning. Today we are continuing on with Unit 3. We are doing CO25. I can use ratios to compare two numbers or quantities. So we're using those ratios to be able to compare our numbers. And we're going to see how some of our previous objectives come in handy for this. So the first thing we have to do is understand what a ratio is. A ratio compares a part to a part. So we're comparing two parts. We use ratios when we compare the number of boys to girls in our class. We could write this ratio in three different ways. So we use ratios for lots of different things. We're going to use as our example the boys versus the girls. So first we have to look at the total number of kids in our class. So what is our total number here today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19. We have 19 kids here today. Okay, so there's 19 in class today. How many of us are boys? So let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And go.
9.
I'm not a girl.
No, I think I counted him though.
I'm a girl.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I did not. Your head was down. So there are 9 boys. So how many are girls?
10.
Let's double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, listening. Let's see what those ratios will look like. There are 3 different ways we can write the ratio out of boys to girls. We could write it using our colon. So we would write 9 boys to 10 girls. So that dot means 2. 9 to 10. 9 boys to 10 girls. So if we're writing it out with words, it would be 9 to 10.
Does it matter which one goes first? That could be 10 and 9.
It does matter. So we started with boys here, so we're going to put boys first. So that way we know which one is which. So we know which one's the boys and which one's the girls. Whichever thing they tell you first will be first in your ratio. That was a great question. Because we had boys listed first, boys are listed first in our ratio. So we have, using the colon, 9 to 10, using our words, 9 to 10. Now with our fraction. Our fraction, our first part, which is the boys here, is going to be the numerator on top. The denominator is going to be the second one. Now, just like with fractions, we always want to see if we can simplify. Can we simplify this? Now, what if 9 and 10? Is there a factor that they both share that's bigger than 1? Nope. What if we had 8 boys and 10 girls?
Second, Crawford, to the office, please. Second, Crawford.
So then that would be 8 to 10, 8 to 10, and 8 over 10. Could we simplify that one? Yeah, what could I divide out? I could divide the 2 out. So it would become 4 to 5, or 4 fifths. Right? So we can simplify our ratios just like we simplified our fractions. Okay, see if there is the same factor that you can divide out of both sides. With the red, when we had the 9 to 10, it was as simple as we could go. But when I changed it and said, oh, let's say one boy is at the bathroom, and now we have 8 to 10, now I can simplify it by dividing that 2 out. So just like with our fraction, we always want to simplify, simplify, simplify. Same thing with the ratio. You want to try to simplify. So let's look at each way that we can write the ratio. You can simplify. Doesn't have to be in the fraction form to simplify. So what would 10 to 15 look like if I simplified it? Olivia? Yeah, 2 to 3. Now, if I wrote it with the colons up here, my answer needs to be with the colon. So however the ratio is set up on top, that's how we're setting our ratio up on the bottom. I can divide a 5 out of both sides, and I get 2 to 3. What about 18 to 9, Isabel? 2 to 1. Again, this was written in words, so my answer has to be written in words. I could divide a 9 out of 18 and get 2. 9 divided by 9 gets me my 1. 25 to 40. Bennett?
5, and then, wait, yeah, 5 and then,
So I'm dividing out a 5. So,
like the 7.
yep, so 25 divided by 5 is 5. Then the colon. And then 40 divided by 5 gave me the 8. Very good. So remember, you're dividing the same on each side. Just like with our fraction, whatever you do to the denominator, you do to your numerator. Same thing with a ratio. Whatever you do on one side, you do on the other side. How can I simplify 27 over 12? Matthew? What did I divide out of 27 to get to 9? I divided by 3. So what's 12 divided by 3? 4. So notice how I write down what I'm dividing out. I'm writing that scale factor so I don't forget. Because it's really easy to say, okay, 27 divided by 3 is 9. 12, oh, my answer is 3. That's what Matthew originally said because he forgot that he was dividing out the 3. So if you write it down on your paper, it helps stop us from making those simple math mistakes. And our last one, 28 to 35. What did you divide out, Isabel?
7.
Yeah. 28 divided by 7 got us the 4. 35 divided by 7 got us the 5. So again, you have to set it up however your original ratio is. That's the form your answer should be in. Simplifying it means we're looking for what we can divide out, just like when we simplified our fractions. Same thing. So we've already done this kind of work on a previous objective. Now we're doing it with ratios, but we know how to do it. So I'm going to erase and scroll up so we can look at how this works with our word problems. Maybe I can erase. Being tricky with me today. All right, so let's look. You have a bag of 50 marbles. 12 are red, 16 are blue, 10 are white, 4 are green, and 8 are orange. Use this information to answer the questions below. Write your ratios in simplest form and in 2 different ways. So you're going to pick, are you going to write it with the colon, with the word 2? Are you going to write it as a fraction? You need to pick 2 ways to write it. Aiden? So the first question is, what is the ratio of red marbles to blue marbles? Aiden, come on up. You can show us what that should look like.
Actually, never mind. I thought it was
Aiden B, do you want to do it? What is the ratio of red marbles to blue marbles? So we're using the information that was up here, red to blue. Nolan, come on up. Perfect. So that is one way of showing it. Nolan looked up and he said, okay, red was 12, so that's gonna be my first one, because it says red, 2 blue, so red's listed first. I have to list the red first. Then he did it using the colons to the blue. And then he didn't stop there. He said 12 to 16, but oh, I can simplify. I can divide a 4 out of both sides. So his final answer would be that 3 to 4. Now it does say write it in 2 different ways. So we could also say 3 to 4. You could say 3 over 4. Okay? So remember, if red is first here, red has to be our first number in our ratio. The next one is, what is the ratio of white marbles to green marbles? Aiden H. Why don't you write it on your whiteboards and I can check it while Aiden is figuring it out on his. You're going to put your answer. So that's the simplified form you're putting on your whiteboard. Simplify. Oh, wait. You're not using the right numbers. So you have to look back at which numbers. No. Yes.
Doesn't smallest number have to go first?
Nope. What has to go first, James?
First number.
The first number. So if it says white marbles, that has to be your first number, has to be the white. Good. So what Aiden did was he looked at his white. There are 10 of them, so that's his first number. To green. Green is our second number. There are 4 greens, so 10 to 4. Then he looked and said, oh, 10 and 4, I can divide out of that and go simpler. I can divide a 2 out. 10 divided by 2 was 5. 4 divided by 2 was 2. So he wrote it one way, and then he wrote it a second way. Okay, so you have to write it 2 ways. Some of us on our whiteboards wrote it our third way. That first number goes as the numerator, the second number goes as the denominator. We're going to do one more together as a class. Jillian, come on up. I'm going to erase this so you have space to work. Write out your answer on the whiteboard. All right, let's see how Jillian did. So we were comparing orange to red. So our first number has to be the orange number. There are 8 orange. Some of us reversed it. You have to be careful. If orange is first here, orange is first in our ratio to red, and red is 12. So 8 to 12, and we can simplify that. So we can divide that 4 out of 8 to get our 2. 12 divided by 4 gives us our 3. So 2 to 3, you could write it as that fraction, 2 over 3, and you can write it with your words, 2 to 3. So you have to write at least 2 ways. You are going to do the last few on your own. Let's look at our second page, because we have a second page here. Here are some other types of questions involving ratios. Your collection of pop cans and bottles is in a ratio of 7 to 4. You have 35 cans. How many bottles do you have? So the first thing we're gonna ask ourselves is which side is the cans and which side is the bottles? Aiden?
Is it the 7 side? No. No, never mind.
Who thinks they know? Your collection of pop cans and bottles is in a ratio of 7-4. Which side is the cans and which side is the bottles? Gigi. Is what?
The can.
7 is the cans. How did you know that?
Because there's 7.
There's another way that we know that our first number is cans, and this is important. How do we know, Taya?
Because the can is the first thing that it says.
Cans is the first part, so that's our first number. Okay, cans is the first, so it's going to be the first number of the ratio. So we know bottles is our second. All right, now we know we have 35 cans. So I have 35 cans. How many bottles do I have? How can I find that answer? What do you think, James?
So since 7 times 5 equals 35, we need the same thing with a 4, which is 20.
7 times 5 gave us that 35. We could say 35 divided by 7 is 5. So we know we need to multiply by 5. Because whatever you do to one side, you do to the other side. So if we had to multiply by 5 to get to 35, we have to multiply by 5. So we know there are 20 bottles. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So the first thing you have to do is figure out which number goes with which item so you can set up your ratio. Let's do one more together so we understand how to set these up. Your basketball game last night ended with your score and your opponent's score in a ratio of 10-9. Your team scored 40 points. How many points did the other team score? So which number is your score? Which number of our ratio is your score? 10, because that's the first thing was 10. Then your opponent was second. So your opponent is second. So your opponent is the second number. So yours and then your opponent's. Now we know that your team scored 40 points. How do I figure out what my opponent scored? Isabel, why would I multiply 9 by 4? Because I multiplied by 4 over here. 10 times 4 equals 40. So I have to multiply by 4 over here. 9 times 4 is what, Isabel? 36. So their score was 36. So if you set it up just like how I did, you can see where that missing part is, and you can see how to get there. Questions on today's assignment? Aiden.
Can you do the last one on the first page?
Yeah.
I'm confused on that one.
All right, let me scroll up and see.
Yeah, how much?
All right, so how many 1 to 2 ratios can you find using the marbles? List them all. So we've got 12, 16, 10, 4, and 8. I see a couple already. Tell me one way, Isabel. Yeah, if we did green to orange, that would be 4 to 8, right? Because there are 4 green and 8 orange. If we simplified that and divided out our 4, we get that 1 to 2. So to list them, I would list this. I would say what the colors are and what the ratio is. You don't have to simplify it because we know if we simplify it, it's going to simplify to 1 to 2. So we want to be able to simplify down to 1 to 2. So find any other ways that you could get that 1 to 2 ratio, simplifying it down. There is more. So that one is not done. There is more.
Can I say one?
Nope. Okay, because I want us to try to finish that problem on our own. All right, with that, we're going to say goodbye to our friends at home. We hope you are well and we hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.